very good morning, Ratna Morjaria. How are you
Good morning,
today?
Good morning, Claudia. I'm really well, actually. Thank you.
Okay, well, it's so wonderful to see you again. You being the founder of Dharma Awakenings. And of course, we've had quite a few of these Shakti Talks already. And yeah, we're very excited to share our next topic, which is basically built on the hard elements and the soft elements of organizational culture and change. So, very delighted to discuss that with you again. And it might be fair to say that we've already had a little discussion before we started this recording because there's so much that we find inspirational and on our own journey, our personal journey, but also what we feel when we work, when we, like you said, asked to talk about these things in organizations. What does culture mean, and what does organizational change mean, and why is it so important that we apply the soft elements then rather than just the hard elements? So I'm really looking forward to this call today, Ratna, and yeah, great to hear you well. And we've both been on a great journey again of self-discovery and
Yes.
awakening, maybe as you would say. It's a
Awakening. Yes.
continuous journey, and it makes us, of course, much more whole, which we've discussed could be a very good topic for a next Shakti Talks episode,
Yeah.
where we can discuss why this is so important. This becoming more conscious, becoming more aware of what we truly are,
Mm.
rather than just looking at certain things that we use, for example, with our leadership training as managerial skills. But it takes much more than doing a management course, as you said before, to become a good leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so where shall we start, you think, Ratna,
I
today?
think let's start with I see there's so much need. The amount of people that ask for coming in to talk about change management.
Yeah.
And I start with change management because what they're actually wanting to change, Claudia, is the culture.
Yeah.
Because the processes and systems that they have are just not serving them
Hmm.
anymore. And that always it's always not surprising to me because processes and systems make everyone rigid, and it takes the innovation away of the real potential of humans coming together to build a culture as well.
Nice. Yeah.
So I'm really experiencing a lot of organizations reaching out and saying, can you come and help and facilitate a change management process? And when we get into it, it's we need to change the culture of what we actually have around here. But it
Yeah.
always starts with change management first.
Yeah.
Totally what I'm witnessing at the
Yeah.
moment. And I think with I would say that the culture changes because everyone starts with a good intention and then
Yeah.
they've lost their way about driving the ship of what are our beliefs, what are our behaviors that we expect. Because if we go like to the Maslow triangle, it's a basic human need that humans have to have that identity in a community.
Yeah.
And when I say community, I don't just mean outside in communities, in towns, in cities, but organizations are a
Mhm.
community
Mhm.
also.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and it's hard work. It's hard work to keep a community together. But I honestly believe that with culture change, the community can only um, keep moving in the right direction with the consistent and persistent communication of what are our values, what
Yeah.
are our beliefs, what do we accept as
Yeah.
accepted behavior and not accepted
Mhm.
behavior. Because when we're trying to build a culture, we're building it from millions of different baselines of human beings
Yeah.
because everyone's being has a different starting point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if we
But
start the journey, that's what I'm finding, that we have to remind people that everyone has a different baseline, but they need direction. And that's, I believe, is what culture change is reinforcing the direction and the inclusivity into that discussion as well.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, I love it when you say, you know, the values is and the norms are the foundation, the foundation. But people are often not even aware. I notice when we speak about going in organizations and ask them, so what are the values of your organization? They go like, oops, not so sure, or they know a few. And then we say, well, how are they then expressed in your organization? How do you see they're put in place? How do they show up in your rituals? You know, do you have your Friday afternoon happy hours, or what do you do? But where do you show up as in putting these things into place? What is your management style, for example? Are they transferred in your management style? Because often we see the norms and the values being specified, but then we don't see them being displayed or embodied in the organization. So it's also very nice to, I think, point out that it might be clear what the norms and the values are, but if they're not being expressed in the organization, when you don't see, like you said, building relationships is not based upon connection. It's more about directive management style, maybe, and it's not about making connections, communities. It's more about delegating rather than connecting. Then where are your human connector factors
Oh
being
gosh, I love
displayed? And I think that is the softer skills. I mean, it's great to have those three S's, you know, like your strategy, your structure, your system that you have in place. But what about that corporate culture with your staff? How do you build the relationships with your staff?
Yeah.
And I think that is something that people don't have the skills for. They're not taught that. You know, they're very good in strategic management, but what about building relationships or yeah, encouraging people to develop their capacity in all kinds of leadership traits. So yeah, what are the skills of the organization itself? Are you aware of that? When we ask certain questions, we work with a Lencioni program also, and we ask 6 critical questions. And, you know, what is the essence of the organization actually? People don't even know that often, and have discussions around that. And if that gets more clear to the people who work in an organization, like you said, you can start to build on something together.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, based on those shared values, you can start to build a community, a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
So
What I'm finding, Claudia, is, you know, I love what you say about what is the essence of the organization. And we talk about connection, and a lot of work that I've been doing recently,
yeah,
the connection's not there from the people who set
yeah,
the way they want to go.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, you know, they're
yeah,
all, even the relationship in the core team of the management is, you know, who are they? Do they really know who each other is? Who
yeah,
you know, how they tick, how they think,
yeah,
and they agree a set of values by words, not by connecting with each other. Because when they connect with each other, I've done some exercises recently where,
yeah,
you know, tell us what you appreciate. Tell somebody what you appreciate about how
yeah,
they communicate.
yeah,
And what would you recommend would be better way to communicate with you?
mhm,
And most importantly, tell them why it matters to you.
yeah,
And that's the emotional awareness that I think is missing to build values that can be lived by everybody in an organization.
yeah,
But that human connection of building the essence of the organization isn't happening at the core of the leadership.
yeah,
The leaders are
yeah,
sat in a room saying, okay, they're taking other companies, organizations' values, and then they come up with their own. But if they've not been vulnerable and actively listening to each other, to why it matters to them, and how would they live this out, if they
mhm,
haven't learned how they will live it out, how can they personify that for other people to live that out, because you've got to be the role model for culture to change.
Yeah,
But I'm really finding the core work has not been done with the people who, if there's like 5 board members or 5 committee members or leadership members, they have not done the human connection.
Yeah, and what I've also seen, and studies have shown also that I've read upon, is like that actually the leaders who encourage the other team members to thrive, actually that's all they do. That's all they do, to encourage the other to thrive. And because the others thrive, the organization grows and develops.
Yes.
If that's your only position as the main leader, people think, oh well, that's not good enough. I should be more than them. But you see, actually, those leaders hire people who know more than them, and they encourage them to do more of what they're really good at.
Yeah.
And that makes the organization grow and develop. And that is something that I think only a few leaders start to realize. And it's interesting to see some of the studies that I read that some leaders who do this, their level of innovation, productivity is much higher. The environment is much more positive. It cultivates this sense of belonging. There's so many benefits because it's balanced. It's balanced with following the strategy, the system, and so forth. But it also applies the softer elements that we said, like the culture change, the skills, the shared values, and so forth. So
it's such an important point that you raised there, because the human connection is, I find organizations have become very impersonal with each other.
Yeah.
And to change culture, you really need to have interpersonal skills and communication skills, because that will help people to learn to collaborate more, and it allows you to adapt more because you're actually becoming interpersonal with each other. And I think you just raised it earlier, they have people, if you have people who with the technical skills, and they help them shine their light. But how do they shine their light? They shine their light by having empathy, by being adaptable, by being flexible. A massive skill is not just effective listening, but active listening.
Active listening, yeah.
Active listening is such a big thing. And a lot of discussions that I have, or people say, well, I communicated that and I've worked with that person and I've tried to do that in that department and they still haven't changed. I've tried to change them, but they're not changing.
Yeah, we hear that too. Yeah.
Light bulb moment. You can't change anybody.
Yeah.
What we can do is influence people. And that means we have to be role models ourselves, because we will be the light that shines other people to go, wow, I really love the way Claudia is. I know, being in your presence, Claudia, you're such a light, where I go, oh my gosh, it actually helps me to grow as a person, like you're saying.
Oh, I really think that's really kind of you also, and I have that with you as well. But what I also would like to add is like feedback. Give feedback. It's like a big role model. Yes, totally. Embody your light. Embody your potential to grow into this full, wonderful being that you are in wholeness. And give feedback, come back together, keep that communication open and saying, guys, we've had this conversation a few times. What am I missing? Because I feel I'm not being heard, or maybe you're too busy, maybe I don't understand, but keep that communication open with each other. And I think that is building that relationship as well. But what we do with our training often is like, we say, feedback is not a choice. It's an obligation to each other, because if you dare to be truly honest with each other and with the aim to build relationship, that is one of the foundations of trust in an organization.
And trust is the key cornerstone of
exactly. So we think that, I'd rather not say it, because then they think I may be too forthcoming or things like that. But sometimes we need to hear the truth, how you experience it, and have a dialogue around it. And a dialogue is something between two people, not just one person saying how it should be. But let's listen, actively listen, like you say so beautifully, to each other to get to the outcome where we would like to go.
Yeah. And I think in a space of if it's with two people or in a group of people, it's that subtle art of learning to facilitate, where you have no biases to what anybody's saying, and having like the bird's eye view and not being attached to the people, and having the bird's eye view to go, okay, well, that person said this, and some people are more dominant in the way they voice their opinion, but being very mindful about body language to actually draw people in who naturally don't have the voice, but yet they've got so much to say. And like when you're saying, you know, the obligation to actually feed back, if we open up that space, that create that safe space for people to open up, a lot of the time, at least 50% of the people in the room are thinking the same thing, but the safe space is not being created to be able to have that feedback. And I think sometimes I believe it needs someone from outside to come in who has no attachment to the whole process. They're just there because they want everybody to move, shift that needle to another point as
Very
well.
nice, very nice. Yeah, and if there is a willingness, you know, if we can say, okay, we'll put all our biases and our previous experiences to the side and just stay open-minded here and see how we can grow. I think, that change can change something drastically in an organization. And ultimately, I think what that will do is also you'll find a common purpose with each other. It's like, okay, now I understand you. So now let's move towards where we would like to head. And also, I think that gives much more employee satisfaction. So it's a win-win for everyone in that way. But it's having that dialogue, it's having that the ability to go into those softer elements of how to create change in an organization that's not just built on strategic plans. You know, how many times I've seen that strategic plans never got implemented because there were so many other parts missing. It's like, and then you know they keep doing the same old.
And expecting something different.
Yeah. Well, we know that quote. It's not going to work, right? So, But
and I love what you said there, because you know when we think about why are the feminine qualities really important for culture change, just the discussion that we're having here is all about nurture. It's all about nurture, and when we're nurturing the ground that we all want to walk on, then that means that we have to be vulnerable. We have to bring the vulnerability out of people. And I'm not even sure sometimes I'm saying that it's vulnerability. It's just, I keep going back to safe space. It's creating that nurturing area, you know, when with our children, when we see something that's wrong and we see it, we can feel it, we can see it. And I think those are the feminine qualities that both males and females have, of when you see something, let's not be scared to say, hey, what's going on with you? This is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm seeing from everything that you're not saying.
Yeah, and then offer that space and say, hey, you know, when will be a good time that we can maybe have a talk about this, you know, and facilitate a safe and positive environment where you can do that. And I think, this is such a topic of my heart. When we actually do that, I like to work when I give training, or when we give training as well, together with my partner and I, that I like to draw a tree on the wall. You've seen it with some of the trees, and it's like, what do we plant actually at the root of the tree? Because that's what you will put in. what you will put in the roots, that will grow into the tree, into its full potential. Every leaf, every branch that will come out of that, and the seeds it will give for the next plan, project, or whatever, will have an effect from what you have put in those roots. So it's so important to become more self-aware, saying, okay, if I stay quiet, if I don't dare to be vulnerable, what am I actually allowing to grow here?
Yes,
so
that's really beautiful.
If I become vulnerable, if I become really in touch with my limitations, my capacities that I'm really thriving with, all those things, if I put them together and I dare to show that, and I dare to say, well, here I need some more help, or here I would like to mentor others to grow forward with. If I don't put that in those roots, what will happen to that tree? And then we need to nurture the tree. We need to make the ground really potent. The environment needs to be potent to grow in as well. So there are so many things that you can do visually as well, but you can then start to feel what I do has an effect. What I do has an effect on the whole, to myself as a person and to the whole. I think those things are really worth exploring with people. And I think if we become all more aware of that, then there is a positive culture change rather than the same old that we see is people are struggling with retaining people in organizations. There's such a fast turnover. People are leaving because they don't find these nurturing environments. And I think it's so good that you pointed out it's feminine qualities that we all have. We could say the doing is more the masculine and the being is more the feminine. And those two are the yin and the yang that go together and make a whole. And if we are just doing, people burn out, and this is what we see. So how can we implement more of this beingness, that what is the core? What am I feeding this? What am I feeding the organization? So
as you're talking, I'm so like DEI keeps coming into my brain at the moment, right? The diversity, the exclusivity, and the inclusion, oh my gosh, I feel in organizations that topics become like very very process driven as well now.
Yes.
And everything that you're talking about, like the roots, nurturing the roots, building the environment, inclusion, the diversity of all of us is what will build that culture. The inclusion is the biggest part, I think. And I always, I try to challenge people. They're like, well, I'm not in the leadership. They made these decisions. And I'm like, okay, so you come to this place of work every single day. And there has to be a team who has to try and drive things. But to grow things, we all have to speak up. And it's also people understanding it's their responsibility to speak up. Because if you complain, you're actually undoing all the work for culture to actually move forward, because you're constantly staying in the past. If you've got something to say, dare to speak up.
Nice.
Where Brené Brown says, dare to lead. We are all leaders, and this is the community that we want to come to every day, because many people won't leave their company. But if you want to come to that company, you are responsible for building that community, because I have this question all the time about leaving legacy. Well, if you want to do that, you are the ones that are going to create the right environment, the right roots of the organization for the next generation. The most important part there is, by us living that, we socialize the community that we want to build. But if we don't have that socialization value that we all bring on this planet, then everything's just very sporadic. It's very process driven, and we don't give a part of ourselves. And we all have to give a part of ourselves to grow something.
Beautiful. I love that, and that goes really well with the tree
Yes.
metaphor as well. I love it, Ratna. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
We could talk
maybe
about this topic for like forever.
well, maybe I think I would like to add one thing, Ratna,
Yeah.
here. When you say people don't want to leave the organization, but if someone with that type of attitude stays in an organization,
Yes.
how toxic is that for the organization?
Unbelievable. And that's a lot of what I see
Yeah,
nowadays and what's happening in organizations.
yeah,
They want to change the culture, but they're not changing the culture because they're not dealing with what is becoming toxic
yeah.
in the culture. I've worked in organizations, I've worked on plant operational levels
Yeah,
where you've had new people come into the organization really full of enthusiasm.
yeah,
They've got lots of experience, and people who have been there for ages,
yeah,
you know, when the leaders don't come in and infuse what they really want
yeah,
in there, the
yeah.
people who have toxicity happens because of what you said earlier, the lack of communication, the
Yeah,
lack of speaking to people why something matters. So what happens? They become contaminated
yeah.
with that behavior, and you lose the amazing hiring process that you went through to get these people
Yes.
because the leaders are not seeing that there's no substance to the values that that leader has for their site or for their organization,
Yeah.
and they don't make, let's talk about this, accountability
Well, this is it.
accountability of the bad, of the bad. I say bad, but like the accountability of behaviors that are not acceptable in the company because people don't have the courage to call people out.
Out. Yeah.
But to call people out, it's always, I feel people feel they have to be aggressive. They don't need to be aggressive. There's ways to collaborate and facilitate and talk about what's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the people who behave like that, they've probably tried to be heard by people, but they've not been given that space
True. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. 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 Wow.
And I think that's an area where that's probably a topic we need to talk about anyway. How do we not label people as toxic and actually learn of why have they become
Absolutely.
like that?
Absolutely. That and how can you prevent that
Yes.
and otherwise cure it?
Yeah.
Recover.
No culture will change in any company
Yeah.
until management leadership create accountability for what is not acceptable, because otherwise, Claudia, people are just constantly,
Yeah.
we can go in and do and
Yeah.
help facilitate, but if they are not prepared to make people accountable,
Yeah.
we're just going to go around in a spiral
Same.
instead of moving the ship forward
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like another
Yes.
another topic at another time.
Yes, for sure.
This is great, Ratna. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I love this topic. It's so big,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so many organizations are asking for it, which actually tells us where people are
Exactly.
present moment
Exactly.
in time. So
Yeah.
let's explore it a bit more.
Like to explore it a bit more. And also, I'd like to say that, Ratna and I would love to be invited also in your organization to
Yes.
talk about Shakti Talks and a certain topic. So if you feel one of the topics that we have discussed could be of any value in your organization, we think
Mm.
it is valuable in every organization. But you know how to get hold of us. We'll have this recording on YouTube, and below in the comments, you will find our contact details. And I look forward to our next talk, Ratna. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And
Anything we've missed that needs to be said before we go, you think?
I don't think the only thing I would like to say is I just going off what you said about Shakti Talks being available to help organizations. I think there's lots of panel discussions that are
Yeah,
happening on
yeah,
this topic as well. Happy to
yeah,
facilitate it or be part of the panel as
absolutely.
well, because we need to talk about these topics we just need to help people because they give them the voice where we have the courage to have the voice right now.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
wonderful. And also, I think people are already doing a lot of it, and sometimes you just need keep the momentum going. Eh? So if you need help to keep that momentum going, if you already put things in place, we would love to guide you towards that momentum as well. So thank you, Ratna.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thanks
And
everyone
until
for watching.
next time.
Yeah. Until next time, Ratna. Bye bye. Bye everyone.
Bye bye.